You're watching Moms Matter at Focus TV Network. And as parents, we are always trying to be the perfect parent. So I brought in the author of The Perfect Parent, Roma Ketterball, who is an educator and an author, and she is just incredible. So I am thrilled to have her here today. You're a real gift for all of us.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I have read your book now actually twice. It's one of those books you keep by your, your bedside, and you kind of just go through it because you have these great tools. 5 tools for using your inner perfection. So I love the title, The Perfect Parent. What do you mean when you say the perfect parent in quotes?
Right. And so this is why it's in quotes, because I think that we have a very misconstrued version of perfection. We're trying to do it all, get it all done, and the worst part is we're trying to do it all right. Mm-hmm. And that's the perfection that we're shooting for. Our kids should fit into the perfect boxes of society, or relationships, or friendships, or achievement, or success as we define it terribly for our children.
Yeah.
And truly, the only perfection that we need to look at when it comes to parenting is the perfection of the order in which this child has come to us. It was by no design of ours. It was by a higher design, a perfect order of events here, where this particular child, our particular children, came into our arms.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
In that is the moment of perfection that we were handed for our growth. And this is why I put the word perfect in quotes, so that we can perhaps revisit what perfection really means. Because when you look at the dynamic between parents and children, on your worst child day, if I said, Sharon, here's a lineup of kids, pick a different one, you would still pick yours.
Of course.
And vice versa. For the kids on their worst parenting day, they would still pick us. That is perfection.
I love that.
That order of perfection, that natural order of perfection, that knowing, we know every breath, we know every sigh, we know every eye movement, every body language of our children. That is perfection. And the growth that comes in this relationship, the growth that comes from being together and being gifted each other this time together, that to me is a perfect order of perfection and growth as well. So there's many different reasons why.
Well, I think that's a great lesson for all of us and everyone who's watching, to know that you have that inner perfection in you. It's exactly what you say. It's the gift that's given to us, rather than trying to fit everything into a box.
Mm-hmm.
And I read through your tools, and your first tool that you talk about is honorable parenting.
Yeah.
And creating a space for respect.
Yes.
And there's a lot to that. And unfortunately, we don't have all that time to discuss. But if you were to tell parents something to take away from that, what would it be?
So the first tool, as you mentioned, honorable parenting, is about accepting and respecting. So first, accept your children for who they are, as they are, their differences. Even our 2 children are different,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
I mean, we don't really have to go far and say my child is different than yours. If we have 2 children, or if we have a niece or a nephew within our own little dynamic of having children in the family, they're designed to be different. Yeah. They're supposed to be different, so that they can actually help our growth, and so that they can help their growth. This is the process of the flow of life. Nothing is stagnant. Nothing is concrete and material. Humankind is ever evolving. And really understanding that if we accept our children, and this includes accepting their emotions. Plenty of times we'll tell our children, well, why are you feeling that? There's no reason to feel that way. Well, feelings are not right or wrong. They are what they are. So, I have 3 steps called dealing with the feeling: spot it, say it, okay it. So you spot the feeling, say it out loud, and then you okay it. These are tools of emotional intelligence, of mindfulness, really tools that help show the child that respect that, okay, you're feeling what you're feeling, and I accept that, and I respect that. And even if you feel it's wrong, it's what they're feeling.
Sure.
It's
easier said than done, though. So you have kids who are high achieving and come home and a C on an exam or on a report card is devastating for them. And you say to them, it's okay. I know you're upset about this, but I always say, get over it, move on. It's okay. And they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear get over it.
Well, you don't want to really do that third step of get over it and move on. You could telling them that it's okay to feel that way. If I was a high achiever like you, I would be frustrated too. So why don't you take a bit, calm down, this is energy in motion, emotion. It's a frequency. This frequency will pass. This is something you're feeling right now. Sit with it. let it go through you. Because when we bottle it up, we leave the seed of that frequency somewhere. It's going to exit in another behavior.
Yes.
So there's a little trick to this, a little strategy to this, accepting the feelings as they come, as is, and allowing the human body time to process and exit those is the key. So giving them those few minutes and say, you know what, I'm here for you. We can talk about it go ahead, vent it out.
And let it go.
And once they vent it out, they will come to you and they will start the dialogue. Or you can go to them and say, hey, how are you feeling? And then letting them know it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to feel bad. Now let's talk about, do you want to talk about what we can do about this next? And then shifting it to the positive and then shifting it in a direction. Communication, we talk about the word communication all the time. Yes. What is the number one reason for, let's say, divorce? It's lack of communication, sure. Right?
Sure.
And what does communication really mean? It's the foundation of every relationship. So for us to understand what communication really means is imperative. It's mandatory.
It is.
Right?
And that's the foundation of your whole book.
Exactly.
Is these communication tools, which I find to be so helpful, especially now having teenage girls, personally for me, and for all my friends around me who are all talking about the struggles of, our kids were so lovely, and now all of a sudden it's just bombastic all the time.
Right.
And, how do we deal with that? Slamming doors and screaming. And there really should be no room for disrespect, which again goes back to honorable parenting.
Of course, of course. So, accepting the moment as it is, because obviously they're influenced. Teenage years are volatile. We all know that. Children are in a higher state of flux and change than any other stage in age. That's why you compare the 2-year-olds, the teenagers, and then the elderly, right? You kind of box them all up, that erratic behavior and emotional outbursts. It's because they're trying to understand the world. They're trying to fit in the world and the pressure around them. And then the parental umbrella of, have you done this? Have you done that? So there are going to be eruptions when it comes to that age group. And yes, the kids are going to be, according to our books, disrespectful. And allowing them the time to vent and not responding to them is the key to showing respect for them. So if they're going through an emotional outburst, allowing them time to exit those frequencies, if we understand everything is energy. Science will tell you this, and everything is a frequency. Everything is energy. Our existence is energy. The highest amount of energy carried is through our emotions. And there's a lot of research done now at JPL and Heart Math Institute, and they talk about the EMF, the electromagnetic frequency of the heart, being 10,000 times stronger than any other organ.
Unbelievable.
So when the heart is affected by the emotions, this area, and in yogic beliefs, you talk about the chakras and the heart chakra. So you can take it in any, whether it's science or spiritual language, you can take it any which way. This vibration is 10,000 times stronger. So it's going to take a little bit to play itself out, and allowing that time, stepping back, not stepping into, but stepping back.
So you're saying if they're having an outburst and they're going crazy, just allow them to have that time.
Just silence and let that, if we are energetic beings and we are vibrating frequencies, then imagine if that frequency that needs to exit is in full flow, and then you add yours to it. We have a little mess here. And this is why, and we read each other's frequencies. We have mirror neurons, neuroplasticity in our brain. And so, of course, we read each other's frequencies. So then we have these eruptions because we're constantly telling them to stop behaving that way, which means stop feeling that way, and there's no right or wrong to feelings. They're feeling what they're feeling, and hence they're behaving accordingly. You can reflect that behavior back to them afterwards. Give them tools for it afterwards. But in the moment, respect, children learn through our behavior. So really respecting, and we talk about this unconditional love that we have for our kids. And what a myth. I have unconditional love for my kids, right? It's true in the way of intention.
Yes.
We all have unconditional love for our kids. Our intentions are all in the right place. We all want the same things for our children. But let's take a minute here and talk about the things that we want for our children. And the tagline of my company, Tools of Growth, is raising kids to be happy, think positive, and do good. Every parent agrees with that 1,000%. That's what we want for our kids. But we never think about what it is that we want for ourselves from this relationship with our children. What are we looking for? When all is said and done, when you look back and you've put in, by the time children leave, 18 some years into parenting, what am I getting out of it? What do I want? Not what I'm getting, but what do I want out of it? And I will tell you, hands down, what each parent actually wants out of it is a good relationship.
Sure.
Because in the end, if your kids end up going to Harvard or to community college down the street, or end up deciding not to have any form of academic further higher education, it's really not going to matter if you don't have a good relationship with them.
No, it's not.
So we have to remember that in that moment, in those little outbursts that the children have in that moment, is if my goal is the relationship, if my intention is unconditional love, that language of love is respect. So respect is that bridge between our intentions and our actions.
Absolutely. And it
So-
goes both ways. It's not respect that your children have for you, but it's respect you have for them as well. If they don't
Absolutely.
see it, they're not going to reciprocate
Yes,
it.
yes, because we think, we're here to teach the kids, we're here to guide them, and I'm the parent because I said so. We forget what reverence there should be in parenting, what devotion there should be in parenting, because they teach us more than we can ever teach them, ever. Without us, they would be fine. They would be fine. They would somehow make it and they would be fine. But what did we learn from these children? Patience, resilience, kindness, compassion, empathy, laughter, letting go. I mean, we can go on
Yes.
and on and on. They define us to be what we should really be, the truth of our existence as good human beings. They extract it.
It's
They'll push and tug and trigger us, and they'll extract it from
true.
us.
It's true.
So they are our teachers just as much. Is that not worthy of honor? Is that not worthy of
100%.
respect?
100%.
Is that not worthy of
No,
respect?
you're right. You're right. And
Yeah.
I think that on this journey, it is probably the most challenging journey of our lives
Yeah.
and the most rewarding if we allow it to be. But you talk about during these times of frustration, take 5.
Yeah.
And I love that. Will you talk about that for a minute?
Sure, absolutely. So, this is the most important job that we'll do. If we're lucky, this is the longest job that we'll ever have.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And most importantly, this can be the most challenging job we'll ever have. But finding the joy in the moments, that is up to us.
Right.
If we can have little tools, little nuggets in our little tool belt, and that's why at the end of the book is a whole toolbox. So if you don't
Love
want to
it.
read the
I
book,
love it.
just
I love
flip,
it.
look
Yes.
through your toolbox and refresh your memory. And I always advocate that when we are investing in this relationship, the ROI is when we're investing in our children, the ROI is the relationship. That is the ROI. That's the return of interest. That's all we want. And that happens in the moment. But then we're humans, right? We are going to have a little outburst. We are going to have a bad day at work or a disconnect with our spouse that day or whatever the case might be. So remembering to take 5, I think that's the most important thing that we do in times of chaos. This is a great tool for self-management of your own emotions and also teaching your children this. Taking 5 minutes a day to do nothing. Nothing. Literally.
I love it.
Pack it all up, leave it all out, nothing. And what can really help us anchor that is nature. So whether you sit in front of a window or you sit out in a little balcony or patio, or you have the luxury of having a backyard or front yard, whatever it might be, just sit out there with your children and do nothing for 5 minutes. Absolutely nothing. Don't bring your phone with you. Have no agenda of, in our 5 minutes today, we're going to talk about this. Because what you're doing is you're dedicating non-judgmental, complete quiet space to them from your heart.
Right. Right.
And you will get that same response from them. Of course, children, the younger they are, the easier it is. And in fact, one of the things that I love is, all 5 to 8-year-olds will then, if you do take 5 for just 2 weeks, by the 3rd week, if you're having a bad day, the child is going to grab you and say, come on, mommy, let's take 5. And I love that because they understand they're vibrational beings, they're sensory, so they understand the importance of that. And the older kids, tweens and teens, will say, am I in trouble? Or how boring, what are we going to talk about?
Right.
Because the truth is that we don't know how to do nothing,
we don't.
nothing.
And it's
We
very important.
It's so important. How do we refuel? Think about when we sleep, when we rest, when we curl up with a book. Those are all moments we turn inwards. And so taking that inward space in a shared shared geographic area with your child is priceless. That's where the trust is built. And of course, conversations will start. Something will come out of it. And don't be surprised if they bring their own biggest dilemmas and spill them on your plate. And you then give yourself a pat on your back for cultivating that habit. It takes a little effort, but then what doesn't, right?
100%. I mean, look, I think we're all searching for that special time and that dedicated time where there's no technology, where we can just be at peace. And this is that designated time. And this is a way for us really to, like you said, cultivate like a real relationship with our children. So I love it. I've been practicing it. It's like changed my relationship with my children. So I thank you for that. It's really incredible.
I think we don't put enough value on the little effort. Like if we were to give somebody a workout routine and say, every day hit the gym for a month and you'll be here. Everybody's going to run at it. This is similarly, we have to put that time and effort dedicated to doing nothing. And it's very relaxing for you too. Within 2 weeks, within a week, you'll feel, you've tried this.
It is, but it's also that I think as moms, we're so busy, our minds are racing. So even the time that we have with our children, we're thinking, wait, but I got to do this and I got to do that. And you talk about that as well. We're not really there. We're not present.
Right.
But when you do this exercise, you are present because you don't have a choice. You have to turn everything off.
Yes, exactly.
And that really is when you get to enjoy parenting.
Yes, and really this is the biggest present you can give the kids, is the gift of presence.
It is.
And it's not something that they're going to learn. I mean, we really need to look at this 20 years from now or 10 years from now when our kids leave home. I'm talking about, your case, probably 7 or 8 years. Think about how technology driven they are now and what that's doing to the dopamine in their body, what's that doing to the chemical reactions in their body, and how their brain is on this hamster wheel and doesn't know how to stop. So it's the biggest gift that you can give the kids. So this rise of the use of technology and overuse and abuse of technology in many cases with anxiety and depression and all of these, and disrespect and bursting out and lack of emotional self-management from the overuse of technology comes hand in hand with a world of mindfulness and yoga and meditation that's really growing together, side by side. It's parallel. So for us to dip into that, we can't take away technology. We don't want to. No. It's such a great tool. It's designed for the benefit of our growth and evolution and convenience and efficiency and so many great benefits. But how can we then teach our kids to balance and dipping into that mindfulness, dipping into that, if you're not a meditator, if just taking that 5 minutes a day helps balance and really smooth out all the rough edges that show up during the course of the day for our children and for ourselves.
Oh, Roma, you're incredible. I could sit here and talk to you for an hour. I could. And unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world. But I love your book, and I want everyone who's watching to go out there and get a copy because it's made my parenting easier and happier, and I think my kids are happier, and I just love what you're doing. And I'm so excited that you're in schools now, and you're doing after-school programs, and you're just making this world a better place.
Thank you, Sharon. And I really have to take a minute to say the same to you.
Oh, you're
because, it takes a lot of dedication. I know what your life is like, with kids, and it takes a lot of time and dedication and passion to serve the world and to benefit our children, to be able to be that voice, to extract and to put in the effort to doing all of this. So I thank you
well,
just as much.
Thank you, and I can't wait to have you back on the show, and I can't wait for your next book.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So you saw it all right here. Roma Ketterkul, author of The Perfect Parent. If you don't have a copy, just order it right now on Amazon. It will change your life and make you a happier parent. And we'll see you all next time right here at Focus TV Network.